The following short video includes some hints and techniques that you may find helpful in developing your narrative essay. Perhaps the most important and probably the hardest to master technique of narrative writing is limiting the focus. Generally speaking, as humans, we like to tell stories, and when we tell those stories, we like to include lots of details. The problem is that too many details, or too broad of a story, can create issues in a narrative. I saw this problem firsthand when I taught 7th and 8th graders in junior high English. One of the issues they had was exactly this: telling too much of a story, including too many details, including everything, whether it was relevant or not. In fact, we even had a special name for these types of writings. We called them dawn to dusk, because basically the story, everything that happened from the moment the sun came up until the sun went down on the day of the story. So they just were really all-encompassing. Therefore, it's vital in your narrative that you limit it to the vital moment or moments of the event that you're talking about. The rest of your story can be shared in a summarized fashion, but the real focus has to be on that key moment or those key moments. To help you better understand narrative focus, I've included some examples of how you might try to limit your focus. For example, too broad of a focus might be to say you're going to write about a football game, whereas a better focus might be to focus on a play or a series of plays that changed the game. Once again, too broad of a focus might be to say, I'm going to write about my mother's year-long battle with cancer. A better focus would be to say, well, I'm going to focus in on my mother's final hours of life. Both of these examples show how you can take an important topic or a very good topic and narrow it down into something that's much more manageable and is going to be much more effective when you go to write your essay. Once you've selected the focus for your narrative, there are two important things you're going to have to do to develop your story. The first is going to be to use selective backstory. That would include summary of what leads up to this moment that you're going to talk about in more detail. How did you get to where you are? Anything that ties into developing the story and will help readers better understand. You have to be selective in choosing that. You can't include everything, or you're going to fall back into that type of essay that we talked about, that dawn to dusk essay. So be selective. The second important element then is to be able to zoom in on your key moment and really explode it with details, description, dialogue, and specifics. And I used to call this exploding the moment. The idea of focusing on that one series or that one moment in your story when you really want to describe everything, talk about it in great detail, and just include a lot of information about it to help explode it and make it become alive for the reader. Another effective writing technique that can be very helpful in writing a narrative essay is the use of dialogue. Dialogue can be an incredibly effective tool in narration, but it's one that really has to be used judiciously and wisely. You shouldn't simply use dialogue just to use it. Instead, you should try to be selective and use dialogue where you think it can add depth and layers to your story. Dialogue can also be something that helps your characters, including you as the narrator, come alive for the readers. But it's really important to note, and I can't emphasize this enough, that dialogue doesn't fit in every story, and nor does every story even require dialogue. There's more also to dialogue than just having an exchange between characters. Sometimes more indirect dialogue, such as a memory or what a character remembers someone telling him or her, can also be incredibly effective. But beyond all of these writing techniques, perhaps the strongest or one of the strongest tools that you can utilize in narrative writing is reflection. Reflection is something that can help to frame the story and its importance for the readers. It's something that can help to draw out the themes. And most importantly, perhaps, it can help the readers connect the narrative to their own experiences, which is what allows them to really experience the story in a way that makes it meaningful for them. But before you can attempt to utilize reflection in your writing, perhaps it's important that you understand exactly what it is. In many cases, people can describe reflection as a looking back on the story and explaining why it's important or adds value in the bigger picture of your life. What did you learn from the experience? How you changed by it? What did the experience teach you about yourself and or about others? These are all questions that reflection can help to answer. As we wrap up this short video, and you prepare to embark on the writing of your own narrative essays, there are a few key ideas I want you to take away with you. First and foremost is the idea that narrative writing is a very important and popular type of writing that is used in many venues, including employment venues. In just about any job that you undertake in the future, you'll find that you may have to do narrative writing at some point in the process. Second, narrative writing has the power to move others in a way that different types of writing do not have. And finally, there are some very specific techniques for narrative writing and writing narratives well that I hope you'll focus on and try to master as you go through the writing process, focusing the narrative, exploring that moment in the narrative with details and information, including dialogue where it's appropriate, and using reflection to frame the narrative are all some very key ideas and techniques that can help you write narratives well. At this point, all that's left is for you to get started. So I look forward to reading what you come up with.